Okay, so Angela, I really liked that you picked a book that the students were familiar with. Her book was Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I think that all of the second graders in this class were really engaged during the whole time, and the students were gathered on the carpet, and she was sitting on a chair, and I think that was a great position to have, and everyone was able to see the book perfectly. I think that you were really clear with like the text when you were reading it. I think this book was also very appropriate for their level, and since they were familiar with it, they understood like how to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like something I thought about. I wanted to make sure the students were engaged. I agree. You also picked a good book that the kids were like really excited about, and they just like loved to listen to it. And there was a lot of pictures, and you did the same thing like I did, like the rocking chair, and where they could all see clearly. You read Big Al, and the kids could see very well, like I said. You also did a good introduction to the story and like made sure you like set the goals for the kids, and they need like I'm glad we both talked about how we should do that, like so they knew that there was a purpose and we weren't just like up there reading.
Yeah, I like that we both did a good job about before we started reading, kind of asking the students what parts are in a picture book, what we should be listening to. Like for example, I remember asking the students what was important to remember, and they said like characters, setting, plot, stuff like that. I really liked how you did ask questions throughout the book, and like that's something that like we both obviously have to work on. This was like our first time reading to a class, so it was a little nerve-wracking.
Like, remember where to stop, and, like, if it's working or not.
I think
they were giving you feedback.
Yeah, and I think like in the future, obviously you can just like post-it notes are super easy to keep in like the back of a book.
I like that you did that. I should have probably done that.
It's okay. That's something I thought of like in the moment kind of thing. I'm trying to think. I think you did a good job of making sure that each student was participating throughout like the reading, and that you made sure everyone was paying attention, and like if someone was not focusing, you would stop their book and call them out, because I think that's a good approach to make sure that students are staying on task.
Yeah, also I wanted to make sure like to call, I was excited because there was the students that like really don't usually raise their hands, like they were excited, I think, because they thought like Cole was up front and stuff. Am I allowed to say names?
Yeah, you can say that.
He was like up closer, so he was really excited and like intrigued in the book.
I think it helped that we both put Jaden, who's one of our students in our class that kind of has like listening problems, we put him in a chair, and I think he was able to really be focused. And when I read, his grandma was actually in the classroom, so I think that helped a lot, just because he knew he had someone there watching him, and so I was really proud of the way he was acting during that. Like I said, like you asked questions who the main characters were, what happened in the story, and you asked what the challenge was at the end, and then your activity was similar to mine and how we focused on beginning, middle, and end of a storybook. I think you had like a really good range of like vocals, and you were loud enough for like everyone to hear you.
That's like hard to make sure like you use like your reading voice, because we forget that like this is actually like we're reading to kids, because we practice like in front of each other. I feel like it was easier for both of us to like emphasize on the words that we needed to and speak clearly and use a loud voice and exciting.
I think you also did like a good job like showing them the pictures, and like it made them, because like we're reading this to them, not us, and so I think that's important, because everyone wants to see it.
I agree.
Like at the end of the book, like it says in the rubric, you analyzed with the text and summarized with everyone, and I think they all understood that.
Same with you. Students raised their hands quietly, and you called on them and summarized what major events took place, and like the plot and characters, and the students like all responded really well, and you did a good job like interacting and make sure they all like understood. And it was also like a good refresher, because I feel like I did mine like a few weeks before, and then we kind of like changed gears, and then you did yours, and it kind of showed that we like both like bounced off of each other.
Learned from each other. Absolutely. I think the kids were obviously super excited for us to be reading in front of them, but I think this was a really good first like learning example, and like we can only go like up from here, and like obviously mine wasn't perfect. I know that, and so there's like what we're talking about now is definitely things I'm going to keep in mind for like future chances. But
and I feel like I should ask more like questions throughout, because I kind of forgot to stop a little bit, so then
Yeah.
I like kind of crammed multiple questions at the end. Not like multiple,
yeah.
but like a few more than I planned on it. So like how you did the Post-it notes.
Oh yeah, I think though I would definitely like maybe make my activity a little bit more involved, and obviously I probably could have prepared more and like created worksheets, and they could have gone back to their desks and filled those out. But I think the big group activities that we both did were like a great way to like get them to think and like how they can like use this for future
like,
books.
Too like hard, and they were still like excited to participate and like be reading a story and learning like key things that they're supposed to be looking for in their reading and like paying attention to help their comprehension. And
I think like what also was nice is that our CT was like she was sitting in the background like working, but at the same time she didn't interrupt at all, and like she both told us we did a really great job and like
didn't want to like make us nervous, which was super nice of her.
And she was helpful because like throughout this whole like semester she's given us a lot of tips and resources, and like she was the one that gave us the ideas for like our lessons and the stories we could use, and so I think that made it the situation so much more like comfortable for both of us. And I think
she wanted us to like feel like as if it is our own and we are like okay with being in front of the class.
Yeah, and so I think just going off this like in the future, obviously we just prepare more as much as we can, read to each other, practice, and like post-it notes, and just making sure that everything works together. But I feel like all in all it was a really good for a first run. Yeah. So I think we're both happy with it.
Good job, Michelle.
You too, Ange.